Welcome to Suzanne's studio. I'm Suzanne Barnett, your host. And as usual, I always say this, but tonight I'm especially excited to introduce my guest, who is a digital painter. He is Micheal Price, my son.
Hi,
Micheal
Mom.
Price. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. It's an honor to be in your studio.
Well, it's about time. We've done this before, but not for a long time. What is a digital painter?
Well, that means that I'm using a computer instead of paints and canvas. I'm actually painting with a stylus and tablet and my mouse, the same kind of things I would do if I was using a brush on canvas.
I see. Now, this is
This is an example. This is actually I call it a light painting, where I'm painting like it's almost like stained glass, where the light is coming from within it, and I'm just brightening it, and I'm doing things to it. I've turned it inside out, so to speak, to bring out colors that are the opposite of what was there.
Do other artists do this same kind of work?
Well, I've developed a technique that I call iridology, and what it means is that it's like iridescence, where you see rainbows, and to me a rainbow represents eternity because it's timeless. It's between the past and the present. It's in the future.
Well, I think what's so interesting is that you have been so many different kinds of artists. You've been in stained glass, pottery, painting, photography. And so how did this turn you on?
Well, this has been really a treat because I've been a digital painter for over 20 years. When Photoshop first came out, I was there. I was in Photoshop too, and I was working on my Macintosh back then. I had a pretty powerful computer, so I was able to do photography really ahead of the curve.
Well, what and who really inspired you to do this, besides your mother? No, I didn't know anything about it, really. Go on.
Well, really what it was I found the camera to be really my tool for showing the world what I see. I can share through the camera lens what I am seeing with my own eye. So it's a way of translating my vision to the viewer. And that started when I was 9 years old. I won an Instamatic camera. We used to go play bingo at a local tennis club on Sunday night, and I won the new Instamatic camera. And I was 9 years old, and I took that to school, and I took pictures of kids jumping off of walls, close-ups of dogs' faces. I had a lot more credibility once the kids saw the photos I took.
And here's a really important question. What is the difference between photography, regular straight photography, and what you do?
Okay, well, I consider photography to be my start. Like, that's my sketchboard, where I capture the image in the camera, and then once I put that on the computer, then I start playing with it, and I start adding my imagination, techniques that I've been developing, and it's adding to it, where photography is like when the light hits the paper, the particles fall away, so it's subtractive. It's actually it's not falling away from the paper, so that's a subtractive art. What I'm doing is an additive art, so it's almost the opposite of photography because it's digitally adding and enhancing.
How do people feel about your art?
Well, they're really struck by it because they're seeing that it's more than what was there. So I'm activating their emotions with my own inner thinking of what I want them to react to. Like, I can make something much more heartfelt because I can add pink, or I can make it more radiant. I can put an energy around it, like this. Like, I was able to kind of fog up the background and then turn this part inside out like a negative, and it looks iridescent to me, like it's got a sheen. But actually that texture is the real thing underneath. But I've turned it inside out with these Photoshop techniques I've developed.
What about taking a portrait of a person? Would you change that?
I would make them look better. I would help them by removing the ravages of time and gravity.
Don't say that.
Well, if
Yeah.
that's what they wanted, or if that's what I want to show, I want to show their essence. So maybe I would smooth up their skin, or maybe I would make them slimmer, or maybe I would put an aura around them of radiance.
Well, getting back to your other profession that you had for 30 years, wedding photography. And I think it's so funny when you first were showing me some of your wedding pictures, you could take people out, put other people in.
Exactly.
How did they feel about that?
They were glad, especially when they were divorced from someone and I could remove them from the family.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was kind of a novelty, but what happened was it became really a necessity because with the whole cultural transition into digital, everybody can do that. Most photographers do Photoshop removal or addition.
So I wanted to ask you, do other photographers or digital painters, do they do what you do?
Well, I have a unique style, and what I've been developing about that is having it be ethereal, having it be mystical, having it have an energy of light, and that idea of that everything has an inner light. Like if I painted you, I would think of your face as a lampshade, and there's a light bulb inside you,
yeah.
and it's projecting light into your face. So I'm adding light to your features, so you're glowing. So that's really a different way of doing it that I don't think anyone else does it in quite the same way.
So how do your, I know what's happening, but tell the audience what's happening with this profession.
Well, what's happening for me is that as I'm getting more masterful at my technique, I'm finding that I want to go out every day and capture the incredible beauty that I'm seeing. Like when I witness something that is so profound and extraordinary, I want to share that. I want to bring that back home with me and work on it and present that as part of my works. So my objective is, as I do my daily walking or through life, I'm capturing things along the way and then sharing that.
That's amazing. I know. I've never seen anyone. When we're together, you're constantly taking pictures, and they're so interesting because of you being an artist, you see things differently, I think, than most people.
And you know,
really do.
Having a pocket phone, having this camera always with me, it's good enough as a note taker to be a foundation for any painting I do. So I can interpolate it to be a bigger image because I'm illustrating it. So this is a good starting point to capture something. Like, let's say I'm seeing a sunset or I'm seeing a close-up of flowers. I catch that and then I'll work on it later to make it more painterly.
How does it come to you? I mean, how do you decide exactly what you're doing, what you want to do with it?
I've been practicing the idea that there's more than me within me. It's like I'm tapping my intuition. I'm tapping a vein of artistic brilliance that is more than me. And when I align to that, it just flows. And it's like I'm being instructed on what to do. I'm being given creative license to do things. And I save every evolution of it, so I don't have to worry that I'm losing it because I can go back to the last saved version.
I see. But I always used to ask my guests, you know, the artist, what is your creative process? But you just explained it.
Well, I write every day too.
Yeah.
So my writing is really my highest technique of expression. I feel like I'm an artist as a writer. That's right, and that's his energy. That's like I'm sharing with the world the radiance that I'm seeing with him and his joy.
That is really darling.
Thank you. And of course, the purple was originally green. It was the lawn. So I'm just playing with different properties that are there in the image.
you said something really interesting, Micheal, about the impressionistic period. Tell about that.
Okay, well, when that happened in the 1880s, those artists were banned from the museums. They were not allowed to show because it was considered blasphemous. The whole technique they were using, this new idea of fresh paints and being out in the field with, tube paints were just invented. So they were playing with the new mediums, kind of like what I'm doing with digital painting. And so they had to build their own museum in France to house their new work. And they were, of course, a big hit throughout the world, the Impressionists, like Monet. And
Yeah. So this is very impressionistic, isn't it?
exactly. It's what I'm doing is I'm tapping my inner feeling. I'm bringing emotion to my work by being able to paint on it beyond what was there.
And tell about the different ways that you could paint. You could paint on silk. Tell about that.
Well, what it is that when you make a digital file of something, that can become translated onto metal or silk or porcelain or paper, whatever. So the idea that it can be printed in different ways is really exciting. Even a cake at a bakery, they have printers that could print my art on
Really?
on cakes.
Well, just give an example. How would you be able to put, say, that picture on a piece of silk?
Well, I would send it to a printer that prints on silk, or I could buy a printer that prints on silk, and then it sprays dye. It's like a laser. It's like your printer that you have at home. It's a different kind of ink that is waterproof and washproof. So that's how it's done.
Have you done that?
I have. In
How
fact,
come I haven't seen that?
Well, it's pretty expensive to do that, so I'm pretty much staying in the forefront of creating, and I've got maybe 1,200, 1,500 pieces that are ready to translate onto canvas or metal or silk.
You know, it'd be really interesting if you could have brought one of the, what are those called, those glass pictures?
Oh, the glass slides.
Yeah, tell about those.
Well, that's really one of my original things, is when I was a little kid, I was exposed to these glass slides in drawers that were my great-great-grandparents when they were wealthy retirees. They went all over the world in the 1890s, and I inherited those slides, and I scanned them, and I've been working on restoring those digitally and then being able to print those on anything, whether it be silk or metal or...
But you don't change those around.
I'm just restoring them. Sometimes I enhance them to sharpen them or make them more vivid, but I want to keep the original integrity of what was there.
So it depends for you, see if I'm interpreting this right, it depends on the subject. We're not talking about these slides.
Okay.
But you absolutely feel that you have to enhance every one that you take.
It's like this guy, it's a treatment. It's taking an essence of something that I caught, and it's continuing to bring it into a fruition of statement of saying, this is as great as it can be for where I'm at right now, and this defines my creative essence of what I can do with it.
Okay, now, did this person see this picture?
Yes,
and what did he say? What was his
He was amazed
reaction?
by it because he had never seen his energy like coming out of himself like that, and it's just how he feels. So I was able to show like an aura to him and have him agree that that's just how he felt. So it's really like I'm translating more of an intuitive, psychic connection with this guy because I've been working on it more than what was there.
What are I just thought of this question. In your lifetime, of course you're still a young guy, how many photographs have you taken?
Wow.
of your kid and all of that, all those. Just have you ever
Well,
thought about that?
I don't know. I mean, I've done 1,300 weddings, and I usually do 1,000 to 2,000 pictures per
Per
wedding.
wedding, yeah.
And that's just for me. And then all the pictures I've taken, I mean, it's
How
probably
many?
a million.
Do you think it's millions?
Well, million something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like practice, and it's getting more and more familiar with it, and feeling like, okay, how can I massage this to be better than it is? And that's what I work on, and that's my artistic drive, to want to make it better than it was, and make it big, and make it able to be translated into anything, whether it's a big canvas on the wall, or it could be clothing material.
And I have a couple of your fantastic paintings. And how big are they?
Well, those are 30 by 40.
Okay, and you have turned them into like a regular, an oil painting.
Yeah.
Tell about that.
Well, what it is once I make it onto the canvas, then I will glaze it with regular techniques. And I can add different coatings to it. I can make it glossy. I can make it semi-glossy. I can add even more color to it. So I can continue the process of bringing it back to being a painting. And so it isn't really a photo. It's really a canvas piece of art.
Yeah, next time I have you on the show, we're going to bring those two pieces. But I didn't want to bring them selfishly because I didn't want... They're so big, and I don't have a big, huge car. Really, really.
Well, it means a lot to me that you love them.
What would you really, just for Micheal, what would you like to accomplish with your art?
Well, I would really like to have a show, and I would like to publish books, and I would also like to maybe even teach some of my techniques, because my idea of showing iridescence, I think, is really a revolutionary continuation of the photography process, of this new kind of painting where we're using a monitor instead of canvas, and everything is fluid. It's like they're pixels, and they can be pushed around and changed and manipulated. It's very active.
Could you explain that a little bit?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, just like this TV screen is showing mathematical ones and zeros across the screen, it's being translated in your brain to a visual that you recognize. So that's really the technology. I mean, I'm using technology that is giving me the chance to paint in this new kind of way, like the Impressionists painting in a new way, because now they have these portable colors that they can take anywhere in the tubes. That revolutionized painting. This has revolutionized photography, because we all walk around now with digital cameras without film. So we're all doing this additive photography instead of the subtractive way. So it's really a whole new thing.
Now, when digital first came out, people said they didn't want it, they wanted the regular negatives.
Yeah.
Why is digital better, would you say?
Well, I miss photography just like vinyl records are missed. There's a magic with how luminous photography is, but this just opens up a whole new world as things get more and more high resolution and more depth of color, and technology trudges ahead. It's very exciting to be in the forefront, and I've been in the forefront doing this for over 20 years.
I know it. And how did you know this was going to happen?
Well, I didn't.
You didn't.
In fact, I was telling you that when I was like 22 years old and I was seeing photography in magazines,
fabulous.
I wanted to do that. I wanted to be the guy running that scanner before personal computers, and I thought, this is what I want to do. I would be good at it. So when it came along with Photoshop, I was there. I bought one of the first machines that would do this.
Now, do you think with technology, Micheal, that they're going to copy you?
That's fine.
Really?
My feeling is go ahead and copy me because I am a unique original and I'm going to just keep coming up with new things and they can just follow in my wake. That's fine.
It doesn't bother you
It
at all.
can't. You just have to let it go. Like when I publish things on Facebook, I'm just like, if they want to use it or whatever, fine. I'm just going to make new things. And which has given me the artistic freedom to not be all precious about it. Like when I first started photography, we had to like not sell the negatives and we own the rights. All that's gone now. It's public domain.
So what's going to happen with the digital world?
Well, it's going to get better and better, and just like the Google glasses, everything can be recorded, and we just have to embrace whatever it is, and we'll just get used to it, just like we are with our smartphones.
It comes so quickly, doesn't it?
It is.
But you also call yourself a visionary artist.
Yes.
So tell about that.
That means that I am going within myself. I feel like we're all connected. And I am tapping a resource within myself that's more than me. And when I'm opening up to that, it flows. It's like in my writing, when I just start writing, I'm getting new information. And it's not even from me. It's like having a dream about some beautiful pavilion, and you can't even imagine how your mind can invent all those details. But it did. And I'm tapping that. And the more I practice, the more it's flowing.
Well, I was trying to think of a word because I always use the word passionate. You know, I say to my guests, because I only want people like you that just are crazy about what they do. So I thought of the word, and I didn't Google it, and see if this fits you. Greatly engaged.
I love that.
Do you like that?
I do.
It just came to me.
Because it's the idea is that I'm connecting with something, and like if you're doing something you love, like whether it's model trains or macrame, you love it and you forget how long you've been working on it because it just puts you in a timeless infinity, and that's when you know you're doing what your supernatural gifts are.
Well, I haven't seen so many of your new art.
Thank you.
And it is fabulous. It's really not like regular photography.
I know. This was a statue in a university that I took a picture of, and then I turned it into a sketch. I kind of went backwards and made it more of what I would draw with a pencil or crayon. So I can do that. I can make something more soggy or just looser. I have that freedom.
I don't think many people can do this. I mean, that's gorgeous. I could hardly do the computer. I never would have had it without you, and now the iPad and the iPhone. But it's so difficult, and I admire you so much.
Thank you.
You're the one that has really gotten me into the world of tech.
Well, you've been open up to understand. I remember when you didn't know what the desktop was from a folder, from the text, or what goes where. I mean, you had to relearn it.
Now tell about that picture.
That's your old oak tree.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. And so
oh, how fortuitous that should come up.
I turned it into really like a negative of it's a dark tree, but I made it light. And so this is like the kind of thing where I'm showing age, I'm showing the beauty and the strength of that tree, and that tree is so significant to me, having been around it since I was 2 years old.
Well, you don't have to say how many years that is.
Well, I
Not
didn't say
that
how
many,
old.
of course.
But the idea
Yeah.
is that I was able
Yeah.
to translate it
Yeah.
into something more in my mind that I can share with the world, not just a photo of the tree.
So what does that picture remind you of?
Well, that picture reminds me of how we're all rooted in a base, and then we have to stay balanced. We have to stay alive. We have to be flexible in the wind. We have to be able to handle, kids climbing it or birds landing in it or men cutting branches. The idea that it's still there, and it's to remind us of it will be there when we're gone. It's like a continuation of life in a slower place than us and the strength of an oak.
That's really interesting.
Thanks.
That kind of bothers me a little bit. I miss my
Well-
oak tree. Now tell about that.
Now, this is an example of being on a walk with my dog, where I walk every day out at the Baylands to the quarry, and these geese were flying by, and I happened to catch them just with my iPhone, and I liked how the barbed wire was kind of like symbolic of, like here we're trying to recycle the cement, and up there the birds are just flying, reproducing or living their lives. So I felt like symbolically, and I was able to play with that iridescent colors like Maxfield Parrish, one of my favorite artists.
I have an idea for you that it just came to me. Maybe what you could do is you could have a little explanation
Yes.
of your philosophy.
That's
with
true. Now,
the-
this is one of the
Yeah.
glass slides. This was
Oh.
Waikiki in 1900.
Really?
They went there, and they obviously were in an outrigger. And look at how it looks, no hotels.
Well, this is a good place to close, and I'm so glad that I had you on the show. I'm so proud of you, Micheal.
Thank you, Mom.
You have always had the ability to reinvent yourself, and this time it's really a hot one, isn't it?
Thank you.
No, really. And of course, how could I not wish you all the success and happiness? And I'm right here for you. You
Thank
know
you,
that.
Mom.
Okay. And I want to thank our crew. Boy, what our crew has been through. Too bad we can't take pictures of them and all of that. I couldn't do this. It's our show, and I thank you all so much. And of course, I thank my audience for watching, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.